All right, take 2 of that. Welcome to Discussing Tabletop, everybody. Yes, I that was the one thing that today I forgot to do, was to check the sound. It's all the little details, and that was the worst one to forget.
To be fair, I mean, at least when I'm around, I will listen to the stream and, I listen to myself.
I had sound issues this week, and I just because I was rushed, I forgot to check stuffing. It's just one of those things I do have to check stuff, because, it feels like it's rare in the blue moon, but it's also like, usually I have to restart things when I plug this in. I actually didn't do that at all today, so I didn't even restart things when I plugged the system in. You're taking my headphones in and out. It doesn't like it. So.
Yep.
But anyway, it's Discussing Tabletop. We are on February 22nd here. You're joining us. Thank you for joining me today, Worm. As I was saying before everything broke, theoretically, Momo will hopefully join us today a little later on to talk about some topics to, hopefully be able to discuss them. I've thrown the docket over in the chat here. We'll kind of go over everything. But yeah, how do you feel your week was, Worm? Was it a good week?
It was a weird week. I did all right. Work was kind of slow, but I was happy about it. I don't know. That was a weird. It was. I don't know. It was just kind of a weird week, because my one other coworker who actually does stuff was sick, and then my boss was on vacation this week, so I was basically in the office, basically working on my own the whole week, which is a weird little way to go about things.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. I feel like this week was a very interesting one. I felt like I was pretty busy during the week, and I got a lot of stuff done, but also felt like a busy week in general. There was a lot of little extra things here and there. So
yeah,
I don't know. Anyway, I think it went very well. I had a good time. I'll say that. Was it anything different or exciting than the norm? Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel it was very much so just enough. It's one of those things was there anything crazy? No, it's just another week. But, hey,
yeah.
That's where our topics for this week, which we can dive into, will kind of maybe make this week a little different. And I guess we can start out with the big one, which is we're visiting Monster Manual Part 2. I'm calling it Monster Manual 2025 now instead of 2024, which was technically inaccurate next week.
Yeah, because I've heard it called 2025.
Yeah, because it came out this year, even though it's from the version of D&D 2024. And so you got your book. There was also a little bit of information that was released on D&D Beyond that I did want to go over, just to kind of truncate some of our discussions from last week too.
Okay.
So I'll put this little article post in the chat here. But basically what they said was, because they were talking about stat blocks on D&D Beyond, that there are 87 new stat blocks, plus 59 stat blocks from 2024 that have had name change or CR appropriate replacements. So that's an interesting one. I'm guessing because we don't have things like subtypes of certain humanoid creatures, orcs are no longer there and stuff like that. They have replacements of that seal. I'm assuming is what they mean.
So,
but would that mean then they are saying with those two numbers it would be 146 pseudo new creatures just because the renames replacements for certain things?
Yeah, so I actually am impressed. They did include a lot of extra sub things. I would have loved different versions of things like a Grell, but they still only have one.
Yeah.
But for anything that has also, oh my gosh. If you're looking up hag, you want green hag rather than hag, by the way, if you're looking up hag, or nightmare hag instead of hag.
Arch
That is
hack
honestly
a big one.
That is honestly the worst thing ever. Like, just trying to figure out, like, some of this stuff is just so bad.
Because again, this is something that's always existed, is kind of families and types of monsters, and I'm glad it kind of included, like, bringing out, but by grouping them together, people knew they were parts of those groups.
I mean,
I understand. I'm not saying that there wasn't necessarily good arguments against making it purely alphabetical. They kind of did. But also, like, the more I think about it, I'm like, those excuses are fine, but they're not really great excuses for, like, people that use this as, like, dungeon masters and stuff like that. I feel like those excuses fit better for, like, I'm a random schlub that wants to read this.
So, again, if I had to guess, I have a feeling that the intention was, if you are running a module that they made and it says get the green hag stat block, you can now just go straight to G instead of going to G and then being like, oh wait, I need to go to H because it's a hag. Or the Gelberzoo stat block, you go to G instead of D for demon.
Yeah, I mean,
that is my thought. Is it was for that specific purpose.
That does make sense, but, like, the way they've presented stuff and the way they present information, especially nowadays, and have kind of argued things, it makes me feel like them presenting something with a stat block is not something that they will do it, but they're like, oh, but we're encouraging you to make your own worlds with your own stuff, and we're genericing things a lot. And I'm like, okay, but then, like what you said, it's counterintuitive. You know, if they were supporting more, this is our world, you can make your own world, here's how you do it, then yeah, I can see it being, like, you know, a thing a little bit more.
It's still listed as a fiend devil, so it's still a devil. An earnest.
Yeah.
That's what I'm showing, by the way.
But
because I'm not sure if it's flipped for you, but
if
anyway.
I could kind of see it. If I'm just a random person looking at that, how would I know it's a fiend devil? Yes, you can see that little text there. But if I'm looking for, like, creatures that are like devils and stuff like that, just by a quick glance, would you be able to tell? Does the art say enough? Because the art, okay, I'll give you, the art might help in that case. But isn't it, like, got, like, evil-looking angel wings? Because that's always the thing about the Aranus. They were supposed to be, like, fallen angel kind of creatures.
Well, so here's the thing. It does give a very short thing at the top of everything.
The
for example, no, yeah, it just says, like, Earnest, devil of vengeance and righteous wrath.
I call it like a quote. I called it a quote, but I know I've heard they've got, like, those little, like, summary kind of things that give, like, a very simple thing on it.
Yeah, and then, like, the I'm trying to find the Gelberzoo that I was just looking at a little bit later. Yankee, Gitsurai. Oh, they have Gitsurai in here. Yeah.
Well, they're aberrations.
Glabrezoo. I'm so bad at that. It says Demon of Delusion and Entrapment. So yeah, it says what they are, and, like,
that's good.
You know,
it's got it in a place that might be noticeable for your layman. You know.
Yeah.
Because again, as much as, you know, here's the thing: we're still going to get layman's. We're still going to get people that don't know. But the amount of people that at least have some familiarity with D&D or role-playing games now is pretty extensive. I feel like building stuff for layman's at this point isn't really necessary. Because the layman's are probably going to have someone walk them through it more or less nowadays.
And here's my thought about, like, that whole layman thing. It is, if you're going to try and help someone build their own world, saying, here are classifications of creatures: undead, demons, devils, dragons. oozes. You know, like that. Honestly, it's like here's how you classify things is actually kind of important point.
Yeah.
It's an important tool for any GM to be able to like organize. And alphabetical is actually usually not the best sorting option.
It makes it feel like it is an odd choice, I think. Like, their arguments feel very hollow, and the choice seems odd. So I'm kind of like in an impasse of like, what was the real point about it? Who wanted it alphabetical? You know?
So the one thing that I noticed by not doing that too is they don't include a cat, because in the other one they include a category type, like in a category description, like demons. What are demons? And then creature, what is each creature? They don't have that first bit anymore.
For major categories of creatures, they would have summaries about those categories. For like groups, like dragons as a whole, demons as a whole, you know, which did help you, like, if you wanted to understand the entire, like, hierarchy of this group of types of enemies. You know, I thought that was very good and helpful in a lot of ways. You know, that you can be like, I can kind of get an idea of the entire group of creatures that we might be fighting.
Yeah. You know, I complained about like not reading the individual entries for each creature, for the most part, at least in the book. But I actually, funny enough, did read those, specifically.
Well, I think
those,
it's
like general things, because it was fun to learn about like how they organized it.
Yeah, no. I think that's the thing is those general things do help in that case because they're like, you know, you're learning about like a larger group and bigger than just an individual type of entities more. You know, it's like, oh, you know, if I'm dealing with stuff from the Nine Hells, this is the kind of thing I'm getting with. Or if I'm dealing stuff with the Abyss, this is the kind of thing I'm getting with, you know.
Yeah.
Again,
also,
in Beholden 4 are many, many new stat blocks.
I actually find it very interesting that commoners do actually have a special ability. Yes. It is, they have proficiency in one skill, and they have advantage when making ability checks with that skill.
Ooh.
So commoners actually can be extra good at something. So like if you have a brewer, you know, they can actually have advantage at using brewery tools or whatever.
They're well trained in that one thing. I do like that. That does like it does differentiate between things like, which I don't think they did very well. Like the NPC classes from Pathfinder 1, which were kind of silly. Where they had just, if this is a terrible commoner, here's an expert who's like a skilled person. I'm like, yeah, the commoner is just a mean joke at this point in time. Like, I feel like most characters and people probably would fall under the expert thing. You know, that they have like even a farmer has some skills. You know, granted, is that skill farming? They still have it. They've learned a bunch of stuff. And, so I do like that reflects that kind of thing a little bit better. For the general, just, this is a person doing a job somewhere. That's kind of cool. Yeah.
So,
okay, yeah, go ahead.
I actually did want to bring this up, because you mentioned last week that, like, oh, they didn't explain CR, or how to get, like, or how to determine what CR a creature was, or that kind of thing, right? I remember complaining about that.
Because I'd heard about that no one had found the, like, because in 2014, we had a chart. You know, that could help you with calculations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There was information on it.
I found something very odd. Challenge rating. When it goes off to challenge rating, it says challenge rating is defined in the player's handbook, while guidance on CR to plan potential combat encounters is in the Dungeon Master's Guide. List of monster organized by challenge rating appear in Appendix B. It's very interesting that they actually like point to these other books in this way. I actually couldn't find anything about challenge rating in the player's handbook. And the stuff about this, you know, in and the thing about you know, being in the Dungeon Master, I think there was a mix-up. I think they meant to include it in other places and didn't.
Huh. But
Yeah.
the thing is, since this is the last book, you think you wouldn't include it then. Or you would have included it if you didn't have it in those other books. They had time.
The thing is, this is all planned out way ahead of time, and edits happened like along the way, and I could totally see something being like, oh hey, let's move it to this book, and then they didn't move it to that book.
Huh. Again, it's one of those things is like I can see that happening. But it's also one of those things is the amount of time between DMG and Monster Manual kind of screams that they just weren't thinking about it also.
I honestly think it was just, I mean, here's the thing. Based on how all the issues in all of these books, in my opinion, can really be boiled down to they didn't like work through it. They didn't plan it out. They didn't play test it. It needed more time to cook. We've talked about this before. Everything needed more time to cook.
Yeah.
And the issue is, I think this is a mistake that was made because they didn't give it time to cook. You know, like they didn't double check everything. They didn't make sure everything was situated properly.
I think it's just for me. I do definitely agree with that. But this is one of those cases where I'm like, I just looked it up. It was 4 months ago. Well, 3.5 months, we can say, when the DMG was released.
Yep.
They had time to do some things in there. That's enough time when it comes to printing and producing something to fix some stuff if you've missed something.
No. And here's why. They would have already had to have been printing and shipping and doing all of that months ago.
Ooh.
When it came out and issues came to light, they did not have time to redo anything. That's the thing. Yeah, knowing how production stuff works a little bit, just from like, you know, working in accounting in my job and like learning how people move things around, it can actually take a long time for stuff to happen.
Okay. I thought like a couple of months ahead of time would be enough, like, because we've seen some changes and some stuff happen within a couple of months. But I can see that maybe they're working, because they are D&D, they are wizards, they might be working with bigger numbers, so those changes might be harder to make. I can actually see that then, you know. That, you know, as a, you know, while someone like, you know, Kobold Press or, you know, even Paizo is shipping X amount, you know, that X might be 1/10 of what Wizards is kind of ordering, you know.
Even Paizo doesn't update things the moment they notice something. They do it periodically. Because it's a lot of work. So,
but usually like a lot of their playtests have been ending not so far out from their production that I would say, like, you know.
Yes.
So that they could, and usually those playtests are meant to get some extra. So it's like the time in between those two things, like, it was short enough that they do make changes and stuff. So that's why I was thinking, in this time period, they could make changes. But like the idea that, you know, I think that's what I'm saying is that like Paizo is working with less numbers and stuff like that than Wizards is. So therefore, you know, has a little bit more leeway when it comes to time. And I shouldn't use them as an example in this case. While, you know, Wizards has much more larger distribution numbers, bigger distribution numbers. They have to start working on it a lot earlier, you know, and sooner.
Yes and no. I think it is in part because there's a few things to it when it comes to that. For this, it is a lot bigger. There's a lot more here. I mean, they cram a lot into these books.
Okay. I just want to say, your statement there, they crammed a lot into these books. Does it have that feeling of they crammed a lot into these books? Especially like this one.
Yeah, yes and no. I like this book. I actually really was surprised. I honestly, when I looked at things, like you complained about them taking out descriptions and stuff, but I feel like they replaced it with stat blocks. There were a lot of stat blocks.
Well, I think that's what I was trying to say. It was like, they
Yeah.
replaced it with stat blocks. They took away descriptions so they could have more monsters. That was the thought I had, which is fine, but sometimes, it's like I wanted, like, a nice balance between creature to stats and stuff. Or like, they had art that took away from, like, descriptions so they could keep art and stat block,
I mean, the fact that they did full color background art rather than, in the last one they did a lot of creatures alone, no background, I think did affect it a little bit, but I don't think it was that much. I honestly really do feel like it was jammed with a bunch more stat blocks, which I'm happy about. I am actually surprised in some cases about how many variants there are of single creature. They did not do that in the past, in the last book. In the last book, they had like 2 variants, maybe for like every like other creature, and here it's like, like 4 variants, like every other creature. It's like I don't know. That's what it feels like to me.
You know what? I just thought of it now. And the reason why I'm kind of annoyed at this version of stuff, I think it's because we never got a proper monster manual after 2014. Remember all those years complaining about we could use some more monsters.
Yeah.
They gave it to us, and we're very happy about it. But I think, I would have liked, again, that's kind of me. Is like, yeah, I like that we have new monsters. Like, I do actually like that we have more stats and stuff. That's really great. We got rid of stuff to get it. Couldn't we have, like, 2 books? You could have had your Monster Manual 2025, and then Monster Manual 2 2025, and sold both of them, and they didn't need to be crammed with stuff. And yeah, maybe you didn't need all that lore sections, but you could have, like, kept things to, like, a nice medium, where I kind of like it, and it's not, like, overwhelming, There's balance.
Yeah. I mean,
I get the feeling that we're never getting another monster manual after this one. It's just going to be an update, and we're still not going to get another big book of monsters.
I mean, here's the thing, and a lot of these are repeats of, previous monsters.
And I think we also have talked about it, how, like, they'll do, like, other books where they can do a whole bunch of things squeezed together. It's like, it's some classes, it's some, lore. It's also some monsters, which aren't necessarily bad, but...
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about... I mean, I've talked about what they did with 4E versus 5E, how it's, like, in 5E they had, I think, like, I think total, like, 500 monsters, but then in, like, 4E they had, like, 5,000?
Mm-hmm.
Like... Okay, maybe it was like 1,000, I think, in 5e. I think it was what it was. And then it was like... But it was still like 5 to like 7,000 in 4e. For like the amount of creatures they put in.
Here's the thing, too. And this is like some thoughts that I'm getting now that we're kind of talking about this. That, maybe I've had these thoughts before. But, like, sure. I'm not going to argue that I've seen other role-playing games that do something similar to this. Where they'll have, like, adventure with some, like, character stuff and some monster stuff. Hey, and some magic items. But usually, they do then compile them in other places,
Yeah, they actually often do. Like,
but 5e never did that. And this is something that I think, like, 4e and older editions did better. If I was a player, and there was a character book, it'd just be about characters. If it was a monster, it'd just be about monster. Each person could individually get those. The DM might have to get both, but the players didn't have to get those books that might have monsters. Where me as a player, if I want to play that specific class, now I have to buy that book that includes stuff that I'm never going to use.
Yeah,
that's a cynical look at me, for me, but that is something that might be a reason behind it. It feels cynical. Like, I don't feel like that's necessarily their plan, but it kind of like, I feel like it's, just they like the format they've been using, whatever. But, like, part of me's like, you could still have these, like, character books and then monster books. Mm-hmm. And you could have adventures that have a little bit of them at the end and add a few new things, Those are fine. But, like, the Book of Giants, the Book of Dragons, those are cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, like, I would also like a monster manual. It's like, kind of like that. Or I'd also like,
rather than
a book
having,
about...
some monsters, some spells, some blah blah blah, all related to dragons. Why not just have freaking book. I mean, if you want to do a monster manual with just dragons, cool. Make it a monster manual full of dragons. That'd be cool.
But, like, Fitspins, it definitely is a thing that, like, if I'm a player character, I don't need a lot of Fitspins, you know? But there might be sections that I'm like, I want to play a character with cool dragon abilities and stuff. Gotta buy that book. For just that small section.
No, I agree. Actually, and here's the thing, Pathfinder does this as well, which I don't like, but it's... At least they cram a lot into their books.
And the thing about Pathfinder is they do tend to... Well, they used to. I don't know if they do it as much nowadays.
Well, you want to know what the difference... No. Do you want to know what the difference with Pathfinder is? Everything they put in that book is also online for free.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Archives of Nethys. Archives of Nethys, Pathfinder supports it. It goes online for free. And yes, in the old days, like, they actually did this where they would be like, a whole bunch of monsters, and then, we're putting out, like, Bestiary 3, and it's got monsters from our adventures that we put in them, from, like, these adventure paths. It's now compiled here. Some monsters fell through the cracks, but usually they were, like, really weird. You'd probably only want to use them for this adventure monsters or stuff like that, you know. But, yeah. They usually compiled them together then, or put stuff together in places that you'd find them, like, stuff that they felt like was popular, definitely, too. But yeah, online for free, which is not the case for D&D too, and I think that's the thing. Is it makes it.
Honestly, I think D&D, like, they could have their. What I honestly think they should do, as weird as this sounds, like, they should just make D&D Beyond a lookup thing for their stuff, and then you can, they can make it so you pay to keep track of characters and make a character sheet. A lot of people use it for... In fact, that's the main reason people use it. Not to, like... if you want to look up something, you go somewhere else. And then they can tack on a D&D only VTT. And suddenly you have a decent place for if you want to just play D&D. And you can pay for that if you want to play D&D. I think... And, make it quality, but then make the information... like, free, and if you want the book, you have the book.
I mean, again, like...
Or even just pay a subscription and have access to all the information. That way you only have to use it if you,
It kind of makes me very unhappy when, like, the article I linked, they've got some, like, links to, like, they've got, like, monsters by name that are technically links. If I go over, it's got a lock. This content is part of Monster Manual 2024 Digital Pack. Visit the marketplace for purchasing options.
Yep.
And I'm like... Man, that really just doesn't encourage me. That encourages me to go somewhere else online where someone will have uploaded some version of the stats and I can just find them there.
It's literally going to be all free online in like a month or two.
Yeah.
Make it 6 months, because for that period they're going to be incredibly diligent in trying to take all that stuff down, and then they eventually give up.
It's a huge battle. They're not going to win it, But, like, they basically don't earn goodwill by not doing it, It's like, I don't know. It's a mess. I blame Hasbro.
I mean...
It's easy to blame Hasbro.
I mean, let's be real. D&D is going to fall off in popularity, Hasbro's going to lose customers, and then suddenly they're going to be having to sell off Wizards of the Coast to someone else. Hopefully.
We'll see. That actually might happen, unfortunately. Just depending on
honestly, actually, to be fair, I think it's more likely they're going to sell off D&D, because honestly, I do not see them getting rid of Magic the Gathering. It is still such a cash cow for them.
The thing is, the problems with Magic have becoming more and more prevalent in a lot of ways. And, like, I think that it hasn't hit that hump that will damage it yet. I think it's kind of like reading that crest.
They are going that direction, though. I agree. So
it
could happen to that, too.
Yeah, that's that it could be a massive falling off because of the direction they've been taking things, There's just so many people that can spend so much money on so many products.
Putting them in the order they should have been released. Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, then DMG.
Yes. Oh, so... Is there anything else you need to add on to the Monster Manual, or I kind of feel like we're done?
Like, They definitely don't give you any indication about how to make monsters anywhere in any book.
So we don't have monster making. We don't have CR calculating, because monster making is one thing, CR calculating being a second thing. They're both good to have together, but just even, I guess you could just customize a monster. Well, what does that mean for the challenge of my players? I don't know.
Honestly, the recommendation in the DMG, which they do bring up, they do have a monster creation section in the DMG, but it's basically like compare it to existing monsters in the monster manual. And you want to know what's really funny about that? What monster manual when it first came out?
It's also the thing is like,
so they didn't even offer you tools to make monsters before the monster manual.
I haven't seen anybody talk about it, and I would have to look into it at some point in time. But are still monsters of a CR a spectrum? I would assume they are.
It's hard to judge until you get a bit of playtime. They probably are. They mostly handle... So to be fair, they do bring up some things about CR in the monster manual. Mostly about what CRs get what proficiency bonuses, and like when they get proficiency bonus increases and stuff.
Some basic stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and then like and then they go over hit die for creatures, so it's all like these sizes have different hit die, and then they get number of hit die based on their
Again, I was just thinking about that because I do remember a good number of years ago when I was trying to make some custom monsters that I was like, I'm trying to make a CR5 monster. I knew what CR I wanted it to be. And then when I'm looking at, like, I looked at, like, 6 CR5 monsters, and it was a wide spectrum that I could put in an order of, wow, this CR5 monster would just die always this other CR5 monster, and they're both melee monsters, you know. It's like their stats were not equal.
If I had to guess, it's exactly the same. Because of the fact that they still do a weird lopsided bottom-up approach, where, because, well, funny enough, Pathfinder, when they actually make their monsters or in 2E, they do a bottom-up approach, just like D&D. But they have a system that makes it a lot more consistent. Although when they give you the GM rules to make monsters, they actually give you a top-down approach, which is way better, in my opinion, for quickly making monsters. Whereas there's like, here are the stats that you want to shoot for. And if you want to be anal as a DM, you can then go through and make it so all of their stats line up properly.
That's an interesting kind of thing, because I actually can understand it. Because they want to build things their way for their games and worlds. That's why they're taking the bottom-up kind of approach. But they're also like, hey, you know, you're not going to be as anal as us when it comes to this thing. Here's a top-down approach you guys can use so you can put something together very easily, like a little easier for your games, you know. We're not going to force you to go through our stuff.
Yeah.
I like that.
Because, like, if you look at Pathfinder, all of their monsters, like, have the right proficiency bonuses and stats for the appropriate skills, but they don't tell you about that, you know. You just have to figure that out. Whereas in this, I mean, the fact that size and CR determines hit die just shows that it's going to be lopsided.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't base, because, I mean, the whole thing, I mean, and then you still add Constitution based off, you know, CR. So it's like, which I don't think they explain how to add Constitution to CRs lower than 1 anywhere that I noticed.
So... Hey, you know, it's just another 2024/2025 book. I think that's the best way to say it. It's not a bad book in any retrospect of the word. But
get it when they do the re-release of 2020 in 2027, when they redo all of this to actually be well balanced and better.
Or only buy it if you need a monster manual. If you already have one, you can just look up things online.
Yeah, honestly, it's just, I still, from what I've seen, people doing D&D, still just doing 5e 2014. I haven't heard of a lot of people actually switching to 2024, outside of people trying to test the new stuff back a while ago, but now I haven't heard anything about that, and most people are actually just moving to new systems.
Yeah, I think it's just not... Again, it's the same thing that, like, we've seen a couple of times, that they, like, their actual success is not, like, easily measured here. I think this was successful, but probably not as successful as they wanted, and that's why there's a lot of bluster in the way that they're presenting things, or, like, misinformation. Because it's not technically lying. They're never technically deceiving, but they're presenting information in a way that hides numbers. Like, it's the kind of thing of, like, combining a couple different groups.
I would argue that it is technical lying.
Okay. It's technical lying. It's a weird place of, like, deceptive, because it's sort of like, it's all of these sales together, not just our one sale, but we're kind of presenting it as it's like, this is the physical sales. That's what sales.
They use very careful wording to fool as many people as possible, while still being within the legal law of not lying, which in my opinion is bullshit, and they're just lying.
So, anyway, it's out. I don't know if we'll talk about the 2025 unless something crazy happens or we hear something, something again. This might be done.
I mean, if they come out with some more, I know they put out some Unearthed Arcana, so when they release a book related to the Artificer, and more subclasses, maybe we'll talk about it.
We'll keep, it's the kind of thing that I, like, we've talked about a lot of D&D books in the past. We'll talk about any ones that are kind of interesting and have a lot of good information again. They are still the biggest game technically, so.
I'm actually curious if they probably still do, but.
Shall we move on to our next topic then? Because we still got some more to run through. Or are you gonna? There's something else to check on.
What? No, we can move on. Okay. I'm just looking. If I find something in this in a few seconds, I'll let you know.
Okay. Well, let's put this into chat here, and let me switch over our thing here to talk about Riverbank. We can also put the backer kit for this one. So this is an interesting one, because this is a role-playing game by Cold Press. Here's the backer kit, long link of it. And it's made to be a cozy tabletop game. So it is very Mr. Toad, Bloomburrow, that kind of, like, anthropomorphic animal, or very, very, you're playing animals, but very, like, in human situations. You can see from the art here. But yeah, it reminds me also of, like, we talked about Everdell the other day. That's the same kind of, like, style of it. Bloomburrow, probably, for Magic, which is more recent, is kind of another one that does scream this style of creatures. So it's about, like, little quests to celebrate friendship, navigate social niceties, and weather the unique dynamics of animal life. Oh, hello.
Hello. It's me.
Hello.
You've arrived to talk about furries. I mean...
I'm an expert on those, some would say.
We're talking about Riverbank by Kobold Press, which is, it's basically Bloomburrow, I said. It kind of is.
This one.
Except without, like, fighting and more just hanging around. Just,
Oh, it's the Cozy RPG.
It's the Cozy RPG.
One of the Cozy RPGs, okay.
I mean, I'd probably equate it more to Humblewood.
Oh, Humblewood. Yes, you're right. Humblewood.
Now, if there's one thing I'm a big fan of, it is when they put animals in human clothing and give them human jobs.
Don't give people ideas.
I'm a very big fan of that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun one.
So, again, this is coming out soon. The backer kit's up online. They're not going to... It's 36 days until it launches, but hey, it looks like a cozy little thing that Kobold Press is behind. They do a pretty good job on a lot of stuff, so...
Yeah.
I'll probably back it.
A solid, like, 90% of Kobold Press product is pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm always down for a furry game.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, that was that little bit there. A little bit of Riverbank. Shall we dive into Paizo-related stuff? Because Paizo just throws us a lot of stuff. Starfinder Core is coming out soon. We can start with that little bit of an entire thing, which I wasn't even paying attention to.
Neat.
I'll link the main thing of Starfinder Core here. July 2025.
Oh, that is soon.
Yeah.
I didn't know it had its, like, test. I thought it was still in that testing stuff.
No, that was pretty close to done. I already knew that. It was pretty close to done.
I didn't hear when it ended myself, so. They will be having a deluxe adventure coming out in July. Murder in Metal City is coming along with it. I guess that's meant to be a box set adventure. So they are kind of having a box set for Starfinder Core. So we're getting that. That's the first bit here. So, hey, we'll probably talk about Starfinder 2E when it officially comes out. Thumbs up on that one. We're already hearing about the next adventure path, which I thought we just heard about, like, the Elven one where they're fighting demons just recently, but the next one is going to be the Shades of Blood, and it's all about vampires in Galarian.
Fair.
So,
Okay.
you know,
I do like a good vampire.
yeah. It's supposed to be going against the heart of the blood god Kamataz, who's based on a god from my mythology.
That's cool. Actually, I think I've heard of that, like the Bat God. I've heard of him before.
Where's this taking place, though? I'd be curious if they go somewhere because it's Kamataz, if they would go to Arcadia or something. That'd be neat. Because there is definitely a Mesoamerican feel to parts of Arcadia. Just saying.
Yeah, could be fun.
Let's see. We're getting more core books with NPC core.
I will be getting that soon. I got charged for it like 2 days ago, meaning it's on its way. But I don't have the book yet, so I can't show it off.
Yeah. Man, just not having a D&D or a monster manual / bestiary that has NPCs just scattered in there, and just a book of NPCs seems like such a great thing. We don't have to have like 15 generic. We can have 250.
Well, I mean, there's different design philosophies, right?
I actually don't mind it. I mean, I think it's more the fact that they didn't organize all the NPC classes in the same section. Oh, right. Sorry, I forgot about that. So for the announcer manual, that's one thing I noticed. They actually did separate out one section, and it was animals. Animals are in their own section.
That's the only thing in its own section?
Yeah.
Oh, why?
They should have put NPC classes, so it's like, here are your basic NPC classes, but instead they're spread out.
You have to know that there's a knight in there. Anyway, but
yeah,
I do like the NPC core for it. It has a lot of NPC stats and stuff like that. And
yeah,
it's made to just be a lot of material for things like that. It does have some information that apparently will help for like tracking attitudes, like NPCs loving or hating you, like relationship-based stuff, and things like that will be handy. So it's more than just the stats for NPCs. It's different ways to deal with them.
Yeah, it's how to use them as well.
Yeah, so cool that we get in that book. And the last...
I'll be able to show it off next week, so we don't need to talk about it now.
The last of this list here is for a little bit of Paizo upgrade, because there's a bunch of it, is we now have a full release date for Battlecry coming in. Well, not like full date. We know it's coming in July 2025, and that's with the two, the Commander and Guardian classes that they were playtesting a little while. So these are two completely new classes.
That was a while ago they were playtesting. Yeah, they did. That was like a year ago they were playtesting them.
It was a little while ago, so I think they just wanted to tweak them because they are like new and unique classes. It's not like in other game systems, other D&Ds and stuff like that. I have seen stuff similar to this, but having it in Pathfinder 2e and in like the Pathfinder world, it's kind of neat to see them kind of developing this. I got the feeling.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying it's nice that someone actually puts effort into their playtesting and actually balances their stuff instead of just publishing it.
Are we just making fun of Wizards today a bunch? Is that just?
I mean, they did playtest the stuff. They just didn't playtest it very well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like they playtested it, then threw everything out. Playtested it, then threw everything out, and then just did their own thing.
So yeah, it's very cool. Battle cries are kind of neat. Anyway, either of you have anything to add to that list of junk that I went through?
I mean, I'm very curious
Good job,
if,
good job.
yeah, I'm very curious to see where the adventure path takes place. It'd be really cool if they did do something, since it's based off like Mesoamerican stuff, if they did go to Arcadia. But
Yeah, that's the thing, you know. I know it's got the same name as some stuff in Mesoamerican, and it is like, but it is in Pathfinder and has been around for quite a while. So it's like it was last mentioned in Divine Mysteries, but yeah, I think they don't really mention what the cults are. I just quickly looked it up. It does say it's connected to vampires. Woo, vampires! I mean, yeah.
who would have guessed a bat god is connected to vampire? A vampire bat god is connected to vampires. Who would have guessed?
Yeah. They do mention that it apparently traveled to the dark lands beneath Arcadia, where it fed, did some stuff that empowered it to god. Okay. So there's a little bit of Paizo news. Let's talk about the Elden Ring board game. I really only wanted to mention it because look at that goddamn box. Look at the box for this.
Boxes for these are always pretty.
But it's huge. It's a cube.
I think the Bloodborne one was pretty big.
Wow.
I know the Dark Souls one I also think is pretty big. Alright, you know, honestly, $200 isn't bad for like I guess the full big box, and then
Yeah.
oh, there's different versions of it. Okay, so we
Yes.
got Weeping Peninsula, Stormvale, and then I assume Realm of the Graphic King is both.
Yes. Realm of the Graphic King, I think, is the
Because
main one.
Weeping and Stormvale are.
Yes.
I'm gonna fuck his name up. Is it Godric?
Godric the Grafted, yeah.
Yeah, those are his realms, I think.
I know they're saying that you can play any of these on their own, but you can also put them together for like one big adventure.
That's pretty cool.
I assume the upgrades are on their own, but those three are separate.
Yes, like you could technically have just buy the Stormvale Castle and play
You could just
through
do
that.
Limgrave. You could just do Weeping Peninsula.
Yeah. Or you could like buy all three and have like massive like interconnected adventures between them that you kind of can build up.
I mean, I played the Bloodborne one. It's pretty good. So I have full belief this will also be pretty good.
Would they do other regions then? If this
So,
is
I think if this sells well, which it most certainly will, Elden Ring is one of the most popular video games ever made. I do think they would just do like Lake Altus. I guess they could combine Altus and Leyndell into like a double package. I don't know if they. I guess technically, fucking the volcano is also part of Altus technically.
Yeah.
And then
It'd be
Concentrated
like
Snowfields are their own thing.
Yeah, so they could like do Snowfields as their own.
They could do
thing.
Snowfields and Haligtree together.
And they could do Altus with Capital, Leyndell, and Volcano. They could do Liurnia with probably just the Academy.
Liurnia with the Ray Lucaria works, yeah.
And Caelid.
Yeah, but no one. I don't want to look at Caelid. I hate Caelid. It's the worst place in the game. Actually, no, it's the second worst place. The worst place is, in fact, Consecrated Snowfields.
Yeah, no, I get that. The large areas where you just can't see anything. And you're like,
I've been playing Elden Ring recently. I hate every boss that's in the Snowfields. I hate the Commander guy. I hate the Fire Giant. I hate the stupid Death Bird.
Look, I'm still trying to beat the final boss of the DLC.
Good luck, dude. Good luck, man.
I'm close. I just have to somehow. I have to figure out how to survive.
You're fighting him after they nerfed him.
I know. Like, I've got a decent build, but I have to figure out how to survive the big meteorite strike, which nukes me every time. When I get him to like that 25% health, and it's like, well, you know, they're great. You know, I've lived a few times, but then afterwards, like, I'm not in good shape. Like, it's always like, on the worst runs, I somehow manage to figure out a way to survive. And on the good where I'm really due, I just get instantly nuked.
That's how it be.
You know.
Whenever I'm doing well, I can't dodge waterfowl dance. Whenever I'm doing horribly and I've got like 1 health push and I can dodge it perfectly, it's like, why? I'm gonna lose. Why can I do it now?
Well, I'm glad I beat Millennia, but that was an adventure. So
it took me like 30 times the first time I did it.
Anyway, but I mean, this is cool. Definitely.
Yeah, I think out of all of the, I mean, I'm biased. I think Bloodborne's a little more interesting, but I think Elden Ring has got a lot of pretty models and enemies in it that have obviously been translated very well to these miniatures.
Yeah. I mean, part of me definitely would be like, I kind of want to like play this, but it's also like, man, it's pretty expensive.
It's expensive, and it's like a niche type of game.
Yeah. I think I was going to play the Dark Souls one at some point in time, and I just never got to it. So maybe at one point off. Oh, was Dark Souls one the worst of those or something?
I think Dark Souls got better with expansions.
So maybe I'll try, like, maybe one of these days, like, on, like, maybe on Tabletop Sim or somewhere.
I mean, basically, Tabletop Sim is, someone makes it, and then can you get it before it gets taken down?
Pretty much.
That's why I'm just like, maybe on Tabletop Sim or something you could try on the But anyway. So, I mean, it's cool.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for showing me the Dark Souls role-playing game. It's very good. Not at all terrible. Unless they did another edition that fixed it, I don't know. I just know when it came out it was hot garbage.
Anyway, this is pre-order for March 31st, I think, so coming up. I think we did talk about this with the original back kit, or Kickstarter, whatever it was. Oh, it was 2022 Kickstarter. Damn. We might have talked about it 2022, but that's like 4 years ago.
Yeah, that's a while ago.
Anyway. Cool. So, Roll20 is getting Dungeon Scrawl or something connecting to it, which is kind of interesting. I don't know much about Dungeon Scrawl. Here's the article that I found about it.
Dungeon Scrawl is a pretty okay dungeon drawing tool.
It is alright.
It's for when you just kind of want to crank out a basic dungeon, but you don't want to rando generate that bad boy.
Gotcha. This is the thing. I'm glad that Roll20 is getting better. But now that I've kind of been forced to, like, also learn Foundry for Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
Yeah, they got... I mean, Roll20 is very good for what it is. And for the most part, it works for everything, but there are a few RPGs you cannot run in Roll20.
I mean, honestly, the problem is Roll20 is about as good as its character sheet for the game you're running.
Because I was running, or I am running, a Wrath and Glory game, a little one of that. It is borderline non-functional because of the character sheet on Roll20. But it, like, it's a short game, we're just kind of powering through it.
Yeah.
But and when I run a longer game, we're just going to do that bad boy on Foundry.
Again, it just depends on the sheets and stuff like that. I do think, like, I honestly probably would have preferred Roll20, but they don't have the remaster sheets.
It's like really hard to play 2E now because it only has the legacy stuff.
Yeah. They haven't upgraded, you know. If they had upgraded, I would have stuck with them, but I'm like, I don't think Foundry's bad. I think it does, but the thing is,
it's a lot of learning.
There's a bunch of stuff that's in there that I'm like, I don't want to do that stuff. You are giving me options that I don't want to do. It doesn't matter learning about it. I don't want to do that stuff.
Here's a tip. If you want to find a way around something, see if there's a module for it.
Yeah, you could sell like a list of like quality of life stuff we were using for our little Pathfinder 2E test thing that he was doing for a bit.
I also have a few that I've gone through and figured out.
That I probably should like add into my modules and stuff like that.
Yeah, because that's really the big powerhouse to Foundry is that if you don't want to do something, someone else probably didn't want to do it either.
Yeah, it's a highly modular program, and
Mhm.
someone's probably made the thing you want anyways.
Yeah, like think of it as like it's a game that you can mod to your heart's content.
Yeah.
But the modding is meant to be there and totally built in, and
So yeah, Dungeon
I mean,
Scrawl.
I'll learn how to do it, so I'm gonna be able to eventually. It's
being
actually not super complicated.
Apparently, being easily connected, or
Beyond
I guess in
CSS.
quotations, easily connected with Roll20. So if you're working in Dungeon Scrawl, you can stuff your little.
I assume the thing is you connect your account, you make the map, and you download the map into Roll20. That you can slam it into the game.
Because Roll20 and Dungeon Scrawl have already been assigned. Like you can get to Dungeon Scrawl from Roll20's page and use it. But yeah, it does seem like they're just going to make it easier to connect them. Is all it is.
Which is nice because Dungeon Scrawl actually is good for when you just need a dungeon map and you don't want to put like. You don't want to rando it and you don't want to spend time looking for a map and you need something specific. It's pretty easy to just draw it in Dungeon Scroll.
Oh, cool. Very good. Alright. We got a couple, before we get into some topics, at our back end here, we got a couple of interesting TCG things. First off, we're going to be getting an English localization of a Korean TCG. This is very interesting because most TCGs nowadays are either created in America and go out, or they tend to be Japanese originally and go out. So I'm kind of interested to see that we're getting kind of like a TCG out of another country. Thumbs up. So yeah, it's apparently based on a popular online game. Cookierun? I don't know. Is that something I should know about?
I mean, I have no idea. I don't know. It looks like it has a Play Store app, so it might be it's a mobile game.
Apparently a popular mobile game.
Yeah, it's a mobile game. I'm looking it up right now.
So I don't play a lot of those, so I don't know a lot about those.
Yeah,
again, like
Google
I
Play
guess
App
it's
Store, so
you make stuff off what you got, and maybe they so.
I mean, to be fair, like there are, believe it or not, there are places in the world that actually have laws against predatory apps. Meaning that they might actually become more popular. Because as weird as it sounds, the predatory apps may make shit tons of money, but they are actually very unpopular. Because they prey on weak-minded people or people with gambling addictions and such. That's the kind of people Hasbro are partnering up with.
I don't know if we can necessarily say that when Magic's been that way for years.
I feel like it's
you do
the
know
last decade, Magic's just been a gotcha game.
It kind of has gone that way.
Well, but you do know they have literally partnered with like
yes, an actual gambling company.
Yeah. The worst gambling company in existence right now, the one that actually causes the most gambling addiction involved, has the most issues.
Anyway, this is based on Cookie Heroes and lore, apparently, of this game. Don't ask me what that is, but if it's got
based off Cookierun.
Yeah, but apparently there's lore in Cookierun.
It doesn't surprise me. There's lore in everything.
True.
Yeah.
First set is going to be 159 regular cards and 44 hidden cards. So I'm guessing those are kind of like, it's just got like a common/rare almost, you could kind of say, I guess? Or maybe it's like the hidden cards supposed to be like special art firms, and the regular cards have their distribution of like rarities.
I don't know if you're going to bring it up, but I do want to mention when we're done with this, I think GamerSupps also has a TCG now for VTubers.
We briefly talked about it a few weeks ago, and I have
see that was a thing.
I have looked into some of those things and heard about some of those things. So
I don't know anything about VTubers. I just thought it was funny.
There are actually 3. Count them.
Three
VTuber ones.
Oh,
yes,
God.
3 of them. There's one by Japanime Games, who's based on, I think it's Hololive.
That makes sense.
So they're the big one. And then there's the I think it's just V Card, which is the GamerSupps one.
Which is a very funny name.
Yes. And then V Royale is apparently one. And it's Merriweather Media is connected to that one. Because I know Merriweather, I think, does VTubing, but he was an artist that did some other stuff too.
I do know.
I've heard him in the art sphere. But anyway,
yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to say the the V-Card one's an interesting discussion because this week, I did something that was very similar to them. I talked about in my history of CCGs. I talked about Flights of Fantasy, which was basically an art cards that they put a game on. It's the exact same thing for it. It's really nice pictures of anime girls, and there's a game on it. It's not as bad as Flight of Fantasy. Flight of Fantasy is really bad. I'm going to tell you, that game, really bad. This seems at least somewhat playable, having heard the rules of it.
That's true.
It's not. It's barely playable. It's a level up from that, but yes, they do an actual game. They don't keep it on.
Also, apparently Cookierun is, not surprisingly, a run game. Or a running game, which is
surprise me.
Yeah, it's I mean,
should have figured that personally, but I didn't think that far ahead. Makes sense.
I didn't either, but I just looked it up. I'm like, what kind of game is this? Yeah, so I mean, probably like what was that Subway Run game or
Subway
Temple Run?
Surfer.
Yeah, that one. Subway Surfer, Temple Run, that kind of stuff is what I assume it's like.
Looks like it's supposed to be booster box with 28 packs of 9 cards, and then also starter decks.
Alright, I mean, that's like kind of average pricing.
Yeah. About $100 for the booster box, and
although
the 5 starters apparently will retail, I guess, combined for $65. Because the smart display will contain the 5 starter decks and retail. Yeah, so you get all 5 starters for $65.
Okay.
Sorry, I should clarify. That's how it started. Apparently, like more recent versions, there's like a RPG one. There's like a tower defense one.
Lore and heroes existing in a cookie world makes sense now that they've expanded into some kind of weird multiverse of cookies, of cookie people.
Apparently there's a fighter one. Oh my gosh, it's just like the same world, but just with a bunch of different genres of games, which I actually like the idea of.
Yeah, if you're gonna make a universe, might as well.
Yeah, I actually like that I actually kind of like games where it's like, there are games like that, and it's always so interesting when it happens, where it's like every edition in the series is a completely different game mechanically, but it continues the story.
So, yes. Interesting. So, Cookierun, the TCG, coming soon in July. If you want to check it out and learn about this strange video game universe in card form. Maybe it's a good game. I don't know. It's apparently popular enough both in game form and online enough to get the American distribution. So, hey.
Good for them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, we're getting something from a previous executive at Wizards and Richard Garfield, helping a little bit here. Apparently, Metazooo, the TCG. It's going to be...
I did see this.
Yeah. It's GameCubator Labs, headed by CEO Rick Ahrens, who was an executive at
This is
Wizards.
a very Pokemon-looking box.
Yeah.
It is.
He became an executive of the Pokemon Company International for a lot of years after Wizards. Okay. And then Richard Garfield is listed as the GameCubator Labs lead game designer, along with Scaff Elliott, Scaff Elias. Look, I'm sure some people out there know who Scaff Elias is. I know Richard Garfield. He's the magic guy. You know?
Scaff Elias is the guy who did, I think it's, he did stuff for early Magic.
Okay.
Like Arabian Nights, Ice Age.
Okay. So, two people that who've done a lot of TCG related work, getting into it.
Yeah. He also has his own, I think his is called Mindbug.
Okay.
He's the Mindbug guy.
Also, the content of the cards is supposed to be cryptids, like Bigfoot, Mothman, Chupacabra.
That Mothman better have an ass, or it's not accurate.
He does not appear to have an ass because you
that's
see him on the...
truly unfortunate.
Maybe it's just you can't see his ass. He hides his ass.
It's just very defined behind him.
To be fair, it only shows the front of him. So
he's actually cheeked up.
Okay.
I mean, a cryptid card game is kind of cool.
So apparently this this is like a new base set that we're getting here. They had a release previously that was apparently more successful, it sounds, than they were expecting. So, as a new base set with over 200 cards, with new artwork, 24 packs with 11 cards in each, and then an Aura card, I don't know what that is. This is coming out in the end of March, so I guess it's sort of like, hey, we were successful, we're doing more, check it out.
Apparently
Actually,
it does.
okay, so... Oh,
Sorry,
I'll
go
let you
ahead.
go first.
Apparently plays a little bit like Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
And I'm going to be honest, looking at some of the old cards, because obviously this is a re-release of this, they're very Pokemon-esque.
Yeah,
So it's
I'm
kind of
reading
already
here,
had a Pokemon-like style to it.
It apparently gets compared to Pokemon a lot, and then has gameplay similar to Magic.
So it's Pokemon meets Magic
with a kind
the
of a
Gathering.
life system more similar to Yu-Gi-Oh, where apparently you have 1,000 points of life.
So it's Pokemon meets Magic meets a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Which is, like,
all in the veneer of
interesting.
cryptids.
Which, honestly, I'm interested.
I mean,
Although I'm, like, kind of into anything cryptid related.
there's a lot of cryptids around the world, so there's a lot of things you could do. Definitely.
No, yeah. Like, what I find interesting is on the box cover, it looks like there's Wukong. So it's like, it's kind of more just like mythological stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I mean, there. I see. Yeah, that's kind of neat. So cool.
Yeah. And and looking at like some of the older cards, there's like Quetzalcoatlus, there's Loveland Frogman, let's see, Chupacabra, Jersey Devil.
A
If it's
classic.
successful, great. I do like new things in the TCG space / CCG space.
Mhm.
Honestly speaking, the weird chokehold that Magic, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh had over things for a long time, kind of breaking that is nice. I mean, we've gotten like a bunch of new ones. Apparently the One Piece TCG is really popular, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
so,
I've heard that one's pretty popular.
so hey, some big ups here, and hopefully get some success. Alright, let's continue on. We got a couple more topics here, and this one involves Games Workshop, but it's not Warhammer.
It's not Warhammer. It's
No,
their other game.
it's apparently Middle Earth.
So yeah, I completely missed that this got like a new edition like last year.
This is one of those things that I wouldn't even
Is that
realize that.
Middle Earth?
Yeah, it's Middle Earth strategy battle game. It like got a new edition last year, apparently.
Apparently Lord
So
of the Rings
I've played this game before.
Yeah,
It's
also-
pretty good.
also does some Lord of the Rings. Apparently, Games Workshop also does some Lord of the Rings stuff, which I didn't even know. I
Well,
thought
Games
they were.
Workshop is kind of like the king of any plastic-based miniature game.
At this point in time, I thought they just did Warhammer.
Oh, they do a lot of games. It's
Oh, I know
Warhammer's
they
their
do a lot
most
of other stuff.
popular.
Gotcha.
So if you go on their
Uh,
website, they list kind of all their games. You just go to their actual normal website somewhere here.
So, yeah. I guess these are more scenarios and stuff are coming out with a new version of this.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
There's some supplements coming out this year that are going to have new factions.
Ooh, nice. But kind of, I guess I should say, is there any factions that you wouldn't expect in this case?
There's a lot of weird factions in Lord of the Rings. Let me just look up a list of factions.
like the various human kingdoms, and then you got like elves, orcs, goblins, dwarves.
Yeah,
I mean, that
you
kind
got-
of feels like it.
Well, you also have every different, like, human kingdom and shit.
Yeah. But I only know like 2 of them, so like that's me not knowing Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, Rohan, Minotaurus, the dwarves, Numenor, which I think technically doesn't exist anymore.
Ah.
Elves,
from the
which there's like
past.
a bunch of types of elves. Lake Town, whatever the Ring Wraiths are part of. But they're technically their own faction that's still disconnected from the orcs.
Ah, interesting.
There's a lot of stuff going on in Lord of the Rings. Unfortunately, the books are painfully boring.
I like The Hobbit. That's the only one I've read.
The other 3 are interesting, but I wouldn't say they're like gripping reads
Look,
by
I'm not gonna
modern
lie.
standards.
I did like The Hobbit, but after reading it, I wasn't personally encouraged to read Lord of the Rings. And like, having seen the movies, I'm like,
The movies tell a better version of the story, in my
I
opinion.
didn't want to sit down and read.
No, actually,
insult to
I've
the
heard
movie.
that. I've heard the movies are like the books are actually kind of like
Because the books are
they're above average.
They're very much like reading a Norse mythology thing.
Mhm.
Everyone's super OP, coolest guy you've ever seen. That dude has a sword that's 1 billion years old from when the world didn't suck.
That's such a great way of describing it. A sword that's 1 billion years
Yeah,
old.
it's just Lord of the Rings. It's just, things were so good and people were very great at making things, and then everything started to suck. And now people
Okay.
can't make shit.
So apparently, as of 2024, Games Workshop only makes Middle-earth battle strategy and Warhammer games.
Yeah, they've cut back a lot on their previous stuff, which is upsetting. Because a while ago, they killed off one of my favorite games, Battlefleet Gothica.
Ooh.
They used to do TCGs as well. I think they still do the Age of Sigmar one.
Yeah, they do. It's on here. Age of Sigmar 4th edition. They do basic, but it's still a Warhammer, like Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40k.
They're doing old fantasy again now too with Old World.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess they're like with the success they've kind of had in the I definitely hear more. Like I always heard about Warhammer, but like over the past couple years, it really has surged.
Warhammer has surged in its popularity, thanks to like a number of actually good video games that have come out. I think that's the big reason.
Yeah.
Then Space Marine 2 coming out and being a colossal hit kind of like skyrocketed to almost a mainstream status.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Well, I'm glad that we have the strategy game here, even though it's again I don't do a lot of these types of games anyway, so
I used to play a lot of war games. They're they're an even more niche hobby than trading card games.
Yeah. Some narrative play, new scenarios, more things that if you want to pick out it there. We're putting out more copies.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right.
The only thing other than Warhammer they make, so have fun.
We talk about Magic just a little bit today okay. I'm just gonna start here by saying we skipped Cons to Cookierun.
Yeah, no, they just didn't mention shit about that one.
I had to
rushed right past that one.
I had to go look up the Cookierun Dragonstorm stuff, and it's the set coming out now.
They
Final
just
Fantasy has killed that.
Fully brushed past anything else they're gonna release because Final Fantasy is cooler.
I'm not gonna lie, in a lot of ways, I can see them.
It's even funnier to me that they're doing. Square Enix was like, "Here, you can do some Final Fantasy cards. You can have a full set." When there is a Final Fantasy TCG that Square Enix has ignored for years, they already have a TCG.
I think it's because they've ignored it and don't really want to do a lot with it.
Well, no, it's because Square Enix doesn't make any good decisions financially.
This is probably easier for them because, a lot of all the people...
That's where Hasbro learned it from?
This is someone else doing the work.
Yeah, there's someone else doing the work. This is Wizards and doing the work and making Magic cards. So they don't have to do a lot. I think I understand that part about it, why they're but it is kind of weird that, Oh, sorry.
There was another one that had more cards. It was the actual, Wizards.com post. Oh, you got it. There it is. Because I linked an IGN article that was just talking about the commanders. Because that was all that was out at the time.
Yeah. So, we've got some views of some pictures and some abilities. And they've got their expansion symbols, I should say. Because, the commander set and apparently the ages.
Of course they made Tonberry.
Oh yeah, I mean, why not? Hell yeah. Tonberries are iconic.
Mechanically, it does seem at least they've tried to match some things mechanically. I've seen some people talk about some of these things, and
one of the cards I'm very questioning of, it's just because I don't... Maybe you can correct me, because I think I played it more recently. Why does Terra do what she does on the card? Because I don't recall her being a character who brought things back to life. That was someone else in 6, right? Who did that?
Okay. The idea of being able to cast like life as a spell is the only reason behind that. It seems that's what they're like. Apparently, like I saw someone. Yeah, like I've seen some people talk about this over the last week. You know, and so that's supposed to be the reason behind Terra having that ability.
Okay.
But it's still kind of a logical leap in a lot of ways. I think her like transformation ability is kind of neat. She doesn't have a transformation, which I thought would have been cooler, you know, with her Esper form and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like her resurrection ability, yeah, it's a huge stretch on that one. It doesn't really make sense.
The other 3 make sense to me. Titus being like hyping up what's her name all throughout that game.
Well,
Cloud being a man who just uses stuff.
Yeah. Also, for apparently for Titus, the entire thing is supposed to hint to the sphere grid too.
Well, I've never played 10, so that makes sense.
Yeah. I played through 10. I do it's weird that they're referencing that they're in mechanics, the sphere grid, but I understand it then, you know. It is
10,
kind of...
I am curious why they picked a 10 over like 12. Is 10 popular? I've never really seen a lot of people talk about 10.
Okay. 10 is pretty popular. Like,
is it? Okay.
It's popular not because it's people's very top tier Final Fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
It's one that people remember.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's what it is. A very memorable one. It's not the best Final Fantasy. There are things like, you know, the awkward laughing scene where, like, you know, people meme it because they don't understand it.
The actual context is pretty good for the scene.
Yeah. The scene, you know the context. He's doing the awkward laugh because it's like, a lot of horrible things just happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to laugh and, like, get beyond it and, like, forget about it and just put that out of your way. Let's just laugh about it. Ha 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 ha. There's a lot of dead people. You know, it's that kind of thing, you know, of, like, trying to just, like, you know, we've got to continue on and live through the shit that just happened. You know, and all the terrible things happen. I don't know a lot about the Final Fantasy 14, but I understand that, you know.
Yeah, I've read Y'shtola's card. It's pretty much her.
Okay.
She's a big damage dealing class. I think she's sorcerer, which is half of black mage. Yeah. Her whole thing is throughout the story, she has died multiple times and come back because she can slip in and out of what is called like the life stream, which is the flow of like life energy.
Okay.
She has that unique ability. Also, she's the most popular character in 14.
Okay.
So it makes sense they picked her for the commander.
I think people, from what I've heard too, like I'm not sure what colors would match best for everybody, but it sounds like you just said her name and I'm not
Y'shtola.
Y'shtola has the best color, like that matches her the best.
It makes a lot of sense. Her card is, I think, the best design of the 4.
The other colors, like I feel like from my knowledge, and I do kind of agree with this, the other ones have like 2 colors that fit a little bit more, and then a third one which is kind of there, but
Cloud being the only other character I really know a lot about. I mean, Terra I know a decent amount. I've not played 6 in a very long time.
Yeah.
Cloud's color combo doesn't make a lot of sense to me personally, from what I know about him.
The green, like, I can give you, you know, green and red, you know.
Yeah, I don't know why white's in there, other than that commanders traditionally
soldiers.
have 3 colors. I guess it makes
that's
sense.
That's soldiers, that's probably it. Like, I kind of got green by, like, you know, using magic to enhance yourself. Yeah. Red because that's kind of like he's an
whole
attacker.
Plot line of 7 is literally eco-terrorism.
But, like, yeah, the white side of things, other than being that is primarily the color for most soldiers, not all of them. Mm-hmm. That's the only, then like that. He broke away from the military. He kind of also lied about it, you know, in his song. Like, so that's why like white is like it feels like an illusion.
It's a little weird.
So you guys are talking about the popularity of 10. I just decided to do some looking up. So there are a few reasons for it being considered one of the more popular ones. First off, it came out in 2001, which was right around the time a lot of like people were really starting to get where gaming became mainstream.
Yeah, I know it was a lot of people's first.
Yeah, then you've got the fact that it's actually got a very unique setting, whereas most Final Fantasies are European setting. Final Fantasy X is more Asian, which gives it a more unique setting. Plus, it's considered to have one of the best combat systems in
Okay.
of all the Final Fantasy
Maybe
games.
I should play 10 at some point.
It does have a very, like, I would call it actually, like, it has a feeling of very, like,
'Cause they
Pacific, I would think.
like,
You know, like
I guess
Pacific Islander?
mild spoilers. They
Southeast
reference
Asia,
10.
Pacific Island.
Oh, Southeast Asian Pacific.
They reference 10 a lot in Dawn Trail for 14.
To be
and,
fair, I said Asian, but it specifically says Thailand.
14 has a lot of that Pacific in Southeast Asia as well as Mesoamerican vibe to it. So it makes a lot of sense. Because the Palico are in 10, right? The little merchant dudes with the beak masks or whatever. Because they're just in 14 now. I think the Palico are from 10.
I cannot remember for the life of me whether they were or not. They might be called something else too.
Yeah, they might have changed the name.
Wait, Palico, that's the Monster Hunter thing.
I think it might be. Pelipelu is what I mean.
Pelipelu.
Yeah, because I think Pelipelu are from 10, and they're in Dawn Trail. They are from 10. Okay, I'm not crazy.
It's the thing is, I might not have thought about their name reference. Is that so? Sort of like I would have to see a picture of the character to like
They are probably also just possibly called something else in 10.
Yeah. But anyway, just to quickly finish up with the commanders there, I do think like, honestly, black doesn't really fit Terra. Red and white makes sense because the first spell she wrote are like fire and cure.
Mm-hmm.
But I probably actually would have said like blue might have made more sense for her more. She's a mage.
She's a weird card as well for these color combos.
Yeah. Titus, him.
I don't know enough about Titus to judge him.
That's the thing is, he is pretty generic because really Yuna's the main character.
Yeah, Yuna isn't like the girl is the main. Not
she's.
Titus.
It's really her story. He's just like the stand-in for the player and
he's the player insert.
Yeah. Not that he doesn't have a story, but it's not the same as like if you really look at Tenny's story.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, funnily enough,
that's a really cute chocobo.
Funnily enough, 14 is very similar to that. Half the game is someone else's story.
Yeah.
Saj's chocobo is very adorable.
Oh yeah, that card. Yeah.
So I like that they've made a saga creature. I think that's really cool. What they've done with Shiva. That's like super cool to me.
See, I really agree. I think that was a great idea. It fits the idea of summons. We've had enchanted creatures before, and so this like saga creature, that's really kind of cool. That you kind of can summon a creature, it has its attacks for a little while, and then it goes away. You know,
that's very cool.
Yeah, that's combining two really great mechanics very well. I think that was a genius idea. We do get a bunch of.
We can just go through all the revealed cards real fast. Emmett Selk's card, he's very fitting to his character in 14. He's also a flip card. I'm a big fan of transformation cards in Magic. I love them. I think they're one of the best additions.
It's really a really cool idea. That helps you.
I like that in the card text they reference kind of the plot of 14, because the plot is this man wants to combine all 14 shards back into one to remake his homeworld, and he turns into Hades, which is just a fucking cool-ass looking card.
I'm not gonna lie, I really do like Garland here.
Garland's card, I do really like Garland's card.
He's just a dude that he's not very difficult to fight, because that's what you do. You fight him at the beginning of the game, and then like at the end of the game, he's like, "Surprise, motherfuckers! I was the final boss. Also, you killed me at like the first boss of the game. Guess what? I'm also the last boss of the game." Yeah, and then it's really funny because Final Fantasy 1 deals with time travel shenanigans. When he dies, put him at the bottom of the owner's library.
I really like that card.
It's just so thematic in so many ways. Sin's pretty cool.
Sin, I do like Sin. Sin is the kind of card I would use in a deck.
Sin really fits it from Final Fantasy X, because in Final Fantasy X, he basically creates like dream versions of stuff for you to fight. And that's what he's doing here. He's like killing and destroying things and then creating dream copies of it, or like illusionary copies of it. That fits Sin very well. The Cecil card's pretty cool.
I love the concept of this card so much.
Yep. He deals damage to you, and then when you get half your life, he transforms, and then he, grants this really powerful buff. And, he does... I think I heard that in the earlier versions he started with it, because I know in the Pixel Remaster, they've had it that his Darkness ability deals damage to him when you use it. So that's the idea of it.
Also, just a good pool for a good flip card because of his progress through the story.
Yeah.
A lot of thought went into this set. More thought than I thought would.
I know! That's the thing!
I thought this was going to be like a cheap cash grab.
Granted, I think those commanders, because they are from the commander decks, they stand out a little bit more.
Yeah.
They feel a little less there, but just the normal cards from the set that I've seen do feel like they fit Final Fantasy.
Moogle Merchant, he's just a Moogle.
Yeah, I forget which game he comes from.
Well, this looks like, well, he looks like the fucking Moogles from the 7 remake that I despise. This guy is from, is that 10? It might be from 10. So Google's Roman numeral.
Where are you originally from? Final Fantasy. There we go.
Stiltskin is
A recurring Moogle in the Final Fantasy
9.
series. Apparently
From
9? 9? And he does appear in 13-2 for whatever reason.
Which I've never played.
Nope. I played a demo of 13, and then I realized I didn't want to play it. It was not good.
I paid full money for 13 and then returned it.
And Crystal Chronicles.
Oh, yeah.
Which is probably why I remember him, because I played Crystal Chronicles.
The Jumbo Cactuar is the funniest card I've ever seen.
The fact that it goddamn does 10...
It
does actual 10,000
I've never seen a more spiteful fling target.
Oh my god! It's just fucking attack with it.
You're gonna block it? Well, fuck you. I'm gonna fling him.
10,000 damage. It's just...
It's the funniest card they've ever made.
Oh my god. Like, on its own, it's just kind of terrible, but like when it attacks,
It's like not
so
a good
big.
card.
But you just, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, you just have to give it trample.
It's just like so funny.
It's just like
Trample and you win. Yeah.
it's just like if you trample, now you win.
Hey, if you're in a group game, just equip this guy with the fucking Aether Spark from the racing one. You've got infinite loyalty counters.
Mm-hmm.
You just gotta kill one of your friends.
Yep. And then they're doing,
so funny.
I guess, they're doing borderless Final Fantasy art cards, which I guess are the, like, special cards that they talked about for this set, which are the, Through the Ages, I guess that would be?
Yeah, and these are from, like, the super old artists that I love the old art styles for.
These look like they're less unique cards and more, like, art showcases, so it's a reskins. So I'm not against that for special cards, like both of the ones they show, I do feel like they made the Ancient Copper Dragon, the Dragon of Mount Gold, so you roll D20s, and Yuffie's a ninja anyway, so she's still a ninja. They just give her
makes sense,
skin her over a ninja.
This is the first that despite it being Final Fantasy, the first that mechanically I've actually had any interest in since Kamigawa. Neon Dynasty came out. Bloomberg looked fun, but my enjoyment of Magic hinges deeply on who I'm playing with.
Yeah.
And whether I'm playing against a certain person.
I mean, names won't be mentioned, but I remember joining and playing against a certain person, and those decks were just, they were decks.
I think he looked at the new beta. They put the beta tier system out for Commander, for the decks, and I think his were all tier 3 and 4, and mine were it's a tier 1 because I just want to have fun and do stupid shit.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, my decks I tend to build are strong, but I'm not I don't usually what I do is, like, that's why I like playing Legacy and Vintage, because I'll be like, I'll just put I'll have a theme to my deck, and I just put, like, maybe one play set of a card, but the rest of them are just one of a kind. You know, like, my Zoblin deck. I have a play set of Drowner's Crusade, because it turns my Zoblin deck, so it turns all my goblins into zombie goblins. Other than that, this is one of everything, you know, because I'm just like, hey, you know, they're strong cards, but I'm like, what am I getting this time? It's a grab bag. I'm getting Skirk, and Commando. I can blow up, stuff.
My decks are very boring, usually. They usually revolve around, like, a dumb theme. Or a specific interaction I find kind of funny.
Probably the strongest, meanest deck I had was Sliver deck, but, that's because
I hate Sliver decks. I mean, the worst one I've ever made is a Poison Proliferate back when Infect was a thing.
I have one of those, but it's like
I refuse to play it.
It's a Scars deck that's just Scars block that I made back during the Scars block, and I just haven't got rid of it. So
I refuse to ever play it. It's too mean.
Yeah, I don't pull that one out. The green-black Infect deck. That's just a I want to be mean kind of deck. Like even my blue decks. My straight blue deck is just I want to draw my entire deck out. That's what it does.
Yeah, I mean that's the most fun way to play blue.
I do have a red. I do have some like more jerk. I do have a red-blue control deck, and I do have a blue-back bounce discard deck.
I have my samurai deck, which has the dude that lets every samurai card proc an additional time, and I have mirror room. Is it the one that lets you ignore legend rule?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
and then I just play him twice, so I get 3 procs for every samurai card. It's really gross.
I do have a couple legend decks that I do have to work on finishing them up, though. Those were the ones I went. So yeah, I'm just looking at the spoilers for some other cards now. Since we're talking about them. There's a Chocobo that has Landfall that plus +1/+1 counters. There's the enchantment side quest Catch a Fish.
Makes sense. That's a classic.
Yeah.
I do. The Chocobo is very cute.
Yeah. Sephiroth is a Vigilance, and there's creature with one's control with -2/-1 turn. Creature opponent controls dies with counters. There's another Cloud that's also equipment based. Of course, yes. That
Makes
seems to be
sense.
most of what it is that we've seen.
There's not been a lot of reveals for this one yet.
Well, that's good. This is the other Cloud. Oh, the second Cloud, yeah, also the equipment based. As long as it's equipped, it has double strike and indestructible. And equipabilities are cheaper. So I mean, there's a red-white Cloud that I guess the red-white Cloud feels pretty good then too. I guess that's the color. So maybe the green doesn't fit as much because he's not really casting spells. But I was thinking for like Materia maybe.
That's what I was thinking because the whole plot is about Materia and the planet dying.
But when I also think about like other red-white Boros stuff, maybe he does feel a little Boros.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's some interesting spoilers for it.
I will probably buy, if like it doesn't sell out immediately, which it probably will, I will probably buy the 14 Commander deck, if anything, to just put it on my shelf to have it.
I might plan to get like a box. I might not. I don't think I'll get a Commander deck. So those are going to be. I feel like they will be overpriced, and if you can get them.
For me, it's because I play so much 14. I just kind of want it as like a collectible.
Like, I am a big Final Fantasy fan, so it's like I kind of want this, because of that.
I know.
This is me getting them on Universe Beyond.
This has like actual collector sentiment to me because I play so much Final Fantasy.
It's also like
I did see there's been a lot of people on the Final Fantasy subreddit like asking and complaining about the prices already, and if you want this for collectible but you just want like specific characters, I'm gonna be honest, you're probably better off buying them in singles like a month or two after the set releases.
Yep.
If you just want like, if you're a really big fan of Y'shtola or Cloud, you'll probably just want to buy their cards individually. It'll probably be way cheaper.
Yep. And certainly speaking, just see what cards you want. I think it's the age-old thing, buy singles.
Yeah, always buy singles.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most effective way to build stuff and get collectibles.
This might be my current, where I like maybe buy one box of Magic cards a year. This might be the one. That's the thing is, I'm kind of sad about the Aether Drift. I just didn't really like the thing of it. Like, the Cookierun Dragonstorm. That's kind of one. I like Khans of Cookierun. That's why I'm like, but it's just in this weird nebulous zone of like, does it really exist here? I don't know. Anyway. We're supposed to move on because we can kind of chat about this a little bit. So, I don't know what's going on. Cons. I can't answer that one. It exists.
No clue. I don't think there's been any info dumps on it yet, even though it's coming out really soon, right?
Up on the Wizards site, you at least get the storyline of what's going on, which is like, it's a weird storyline. It's basically after all the shenanigans of Ugin waking up, the Phyrexian invasion, and also something else that happened, which I'm not going to go into because it's large and complex. The short of the story is, the former Dragon Lords gone, the old clans kind of have rebuilt, but there's also still dragons around, a lot of shit going on with that, so it's a lot, it's making basically like, the two groups that were there are kind of combined now a little bit. You know, the old Khan clans and the newer Dragon clans kind of, they are based on the old Khan clans, but they have like a feel that like some of the dragons are clan dragons now. It's like, I guess the remaining dragons when the Dragon Lords came away were like, well, you guys kind of won this one because, our bosses are gone. I guess we'll hang with you then if you let us. And they're like, okay, sure. I don't know. I would have hoped there was more to this.
Definitely seems like other set got a lot more marketing priority.
Oh yeah, no, I will agree. I feel like, unfortunately, with Universes Beyond, or like physical booster sets, we're going to get more of this, where they're going to get the priority, and the other
there
things
is
are not.
A higher reach, unfortunately, for licensed product.
Yeah. Alright. Interestingly enough, I had a deeper discussion topic that we kind of hit on already, but I do want to talk a little bit more, and it's the wide world of VTTs, because this is one of those things that, this is my first step beyond Roll20. I kind of just didn't want to because I knew Roll20, but we're right, Roll20 isn't always the best out there. And there's a lot, especially with the D&D VTT coming out and kind of being on the horizon in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. That is kind of a mess at this point in time, figuring out what's best for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have a good guide for that, but I guess we can talk about what people might look for in a VTT.
So, like, if you want the basic, bare bones kind of, I just want to run a game, I have physical books, or we have PDFs, and we're fine with inputting stuff manually, Roll20 is honestly the way to go, because it's free.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't cost any money. And I personally think that if you want to run something like a Pathfinder 2e or a Wrath and Glory or something a little more complicated than a 5e, you should just go for Foundry, or there's like Fantasy Grounds and stuff as well that I know are okay at what they do.
Fantasy Grounds, I'm actually curious about it. What's interesting is I just noticed the Fantasy Grounds I have is now called Fantasy Grounds Classic, and now I'm wondering.
Yeah, I think they made a new version relatively recently, or an updated version.
Alright.
And it's actually way cheaper. Elden was like $100, and this one's like $50. So I mean, to be fair, they're competing with things now. So I mean, back in the day, it was either Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds.
You got a lot of competitors now for this kind of. It's good because it's forcing previous dormant companies to actually give a shit about their product.
Yeah. I would hope Roll20 would do more.
Well, Roll20 has to do just enough because it is still the best free option.
I guess that's true.
I'm gonna be honest. So Fantasy Grounds, like, Fantasy Grounds, honestly, based on what I'm looking at, has improved a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the nice thing about them is because everything is paid, you are going to get actually decent versions with everything having, like, you know, the stuff there. Also, they're backwards compatible with all the old modules. So if you buy the new one and get the updated, like, features, and it's backwards compatible. Like, I have Curse of Strahd because I wanted to try out Fantasy Grounds, so I played Curse of Strahd with my friends. And honestly, I thought it was pretty good. The biggest thing that seemed to be lacking for me when I played it back in the day was maps and the way they handled them. Basically, they didn't have dynamic lighting. You had to do the draw to reveal. They apparently have dynamic lighting now, though.
Okay.
So honestly,
done a lot of
they do
improvements.
yeah, there are a lot of improvements. I'm just looking at it right now. I'm like, and just knowing what they used to have and comparing it to what they're showing here, they definitely have made leaps and bounds. Which is honestly to be expected since the last time I played it was like 10 years ago.
True, like, I mean, 10 years should be enough time, theoretically,
Yeah.
for them to...
Well, I mean, honestly, most of this wasn't until, like, apparently 5 years ago is when a lot of this came around.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's because competition. Once competition came around and they stopped being, like, the biggest fish in the pond, like, this is the thing. They were always really big, as far as, like, they were, like, it's like you either had to do Roll20 or you had to do Fantasy Grounds, which was actually much higher quality, but also just still had flaws. It was all like choose your poison, you know, pick your poison. Pay for something that's better but still not great, or get the free version of something but you still had to pay if you wanted to have things like dynamic lighting. So it's like...
So I guess, like, the big things are that you're looking for when it comes to a VTT nowadays is certainly speaking, you know, first of all, if you ask yourself, price. You know, am I going to have to pay to get the VTT? Am I going to have to pay to get various modules in there? You know, things like that is probably a very basic start to the entire question.
Apparently Fantasy Grounds also has map creators inside of it now.
Okay. Interesting.
So yeah, there's a lot of, honestly, there are a lot of cool features here. Makes me actually want to try it out. But yeah, I honestly think so. That does actually. So just from what I know and looking at it, I can comment on this some more. But let's actually start going on about the different ones.
So I kind of want to, like, go over some of the kind of things you're looking for. So price is a good point to kind of start out with looking, certainly speaking. You know, and then you have to ask two big other questions, I think, are, first off, what VTTs would be best for what game I'm going to run? You know, when we talk about it, like, yeah, I would have said, like, I could run Pathfinder 2nd Edition in Roll20 until the remaster came out. And now I'm like, well, they haven't updated for it. It doesn't work for it really there. You know, I'm looking at, you know, like, how easy... Again, I think character sheets and how they roll are probably that big thing that you are looking at most of all. Because after that, sure, yeah, maybe having a fantasy... easy to put maps in, easy to put creatures in, all those other things. Those are nice, you know. Oh, I can get a database and give me all these monsters. That's cool. You kind of still want to be able to...
afford it?
I wasn't going to say afford. I was going to say play it. Because that's what I'm saying. I'm talking about the character sheets, you know.
Oh, wait. I thought did you move on from price?
I kind of kept price simple. Like I said, like,
okay.
Looking at price is the first thing that you do. You know, say what my budget is, what I need. If your budget's not a lot, then you might just stick with Roll20. It's free. But if I can buy something or get a license for something, like, you know, like Foundry, it's $50. That's $50 you have to pay once.
In a way, and here's something to also keep in mind. You got to remember that Roll20 also has a paid version, which gives you increased things such as dynamic lighting. Honestly, at this point, I would say Roll20 paid. If you're going to pay for something, go Fantasy Grounds or Foundry, because Roll20's paid features are actually now done by everyone else for a single price rather than a subscription.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, Roll20's...
Roll20 also has, if you don't pay, has very limited file space. So if you're running more than one campaign, you're better off going with the Foundry or Fantasy Ground because they are not a subscription and it's local storage.
Yeah.
That's definitely something else.
Now, if you're running an obscure game, which has maybe not the best character sheets, you definitely don't want to use Roll20 because the more obscure a game is, the worse the sheets are going to be for Roll20. That's just unfortunately how it is.
There's some problems with that, though. The reason being is that sometimes those sheets, those obscure sheets that are kind of bad on Roll20, are the only sheets across all VTTs. So,
yeah,
that's the other thing. Like,
let me. I'm gonna post. I don't know. You can't really pull it up, but just to give like an example to you guys, I'm gonna post the Roll20 Wrath and Glory sheet, and I'm gonna post the Foundry one as a comparison.
Mm-hmm.
I took the screenshot. The Roll20 one real fast. I don't know. I can shove them somewhere. Where can I shove these? Where's the good spot for these? I guess I can just put them in general chat in this server.
Yeah.
So this is the Roll20 sheet.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little ugly, very basic, usual Roll20 stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. I was going on my phone. The first thing last time I was on Discord was cat
cats. And then let me find the Foundry one.
There we go.
And then this is the Foundry sheet. One of these is a little bit better than the other, but you are paying the buy-in price for Foundry.
Yeah.
So you would expect a higher quality sheet in general. And usually that's what you're going to get for most major tabletop RPGs on a paid platform. But for the more obscure games, you are probably going to have to use Roll20.
There is, I mean, what's funny is I wouldn't even say very obscure games. For example, D&D 2E. I've been playing Spelljammer, and the sheet is pretty trash on Roll20. But when I went to figure it out in Foundry, a sheet existed, but it was kind of like it wasn't bad as much as it was just there was nothing there. Like it was like it basically had all the base mechanics, but if you wanted to input any equipment, any items, anything, you had to put it all in by hand, which is a ton of work. Whereas, well, yeah, but at least it's simplified because of the way Foundry works. You have to like input an item as an item and then input that item into the thing. It's like extra steps for input. Whereas like in Roll20 for their sheet, they just have a description section where you can just type in information of what it does.
I think also for crunchier games, Roll20's automation can sometimes be a little bit lacking. Versus something like a Foundry or Fantasy Ground for like the super crunchy stuff.
The inability to do looping calculations is very problematic in Roll20. That is something that has been like people have wanted on Roll20 since its inception.
Yeah. I know for Wrath and Glory is a relatively simple system. There's a lot of numbers, and none of it is automated on Roll20. So every little detail has to be hand put in.
Yeah. I mean, like Roll20, because of the way it works, there's a linear system for how it processes everything. So you, for example, can't take a roll and then use that to determine another roll because the roll step will only be processed once.
Yep.
I mean, you can because there's a way to do that all within one roll, but only if it's like, one or if it's like 1d4, d4, that you can do because of the way it works. But if it's like 1d4 and then you have to like look up a table and then do another like roll based off that, it breaks.
It's getting an idea of the limits of the system.
And then another limitation, and this I definitely will go from game to game for how it's been set up. Wrath and Glory is a dice pool system, but one die is a special dice that has to be a different color. That doesn't really work very well on Roll20 because it just puts the number of dice rolled in chat, and you have to mouse over those dice rolls to see what was rolled. And yeah, like it's supposed to tell you how many successes for Wrath and Glory you get, but since a 6 counts as 2 successes, it'll show the little green box that a 6 was rolled, but it will not count it as 2 successes. It'll count it as only 1.
Okay, there is a way around that, although that's probably because the person who made the sheet didn't know how to do this. It's a very complicated calculation that I learned how to do a while ago, and I love. But it's annoying because you have to basically you basically have to do a fractional and then round and then do a whole thing. But it is something I figured out a while ago how to do, and it is a calculation. But the person you basically have to have a. I'm someone who actually likes to learn how math works, and I remember math class and stuff. You have to know that level of. You have to be good at math to be able to do those kinds of things in Roll20.
It's one of those things that when you're talking about that, I'm like, I thought I saw that the Fantasy Flight Star Wars worked in Roll20.
It might now, but it didn't used to.
Okay.
Because Fantasy Flight uses
those unique set dice.
Uses a special set of dice. I think you actually have to buy the Fantasy Flight books on Roll20 to even access those dice. And there's not a in-book comparison for what you can use as alternative normal dice for them.
Yeah. And I do want to Yeah, and I do want to say something about Fantasy Grounds in this area about sheets. The one downside to Fantasy Grounds is they only have their officially made sheets. You cannot make your own in Foundry, as far as I'm aware. They may have changed it with their most recent version, but as far as I'm aware, they only have the core sheets. Now, they have a shit ton of them, but there is still very much that limitation. So, if they did not support the game you want to play, it's not there. Also, you have to buy every book individually. For example, just like you do on Roll20 if you want the compendiums in there.
Yeah.
So you have to buy the base game that's $50, and then you have to buy Pathfinder Core that's also $60, and then the Pathfinder Core 2, which is also $60, and then but honestly, Fantasy Grounds does have probably. It's basically the most expensive, but also they kind of do make it worth the money if you have the money.
I think that's the one thing that I liked, at least when it came to I'll say D&D and Pathfinder on Roll20. They at least have a very basic compendium that's already on there for those that I didn't have to pay for anything for. I liked that. That was pretty good. But again, you have to see what options are there. That's not it never was everything. Is the thing I can say about that.
Yeah, you are not going to find obscure RPGs on Fantasy Grounds.
No, absolutely not.
That's the biggest downside of Fantasy Grounds is you can't just play anything because you can't make your own. Because fans can't make their own like that you can in Foundry and Roll20.
Yeah. So again, these are all and there are a lot of other VTTs. I don't know if there's going to be a list. That's a tough one because there's so many.
There's a lot. I know the major ones are Foundry, Fantasy Grounds, Roll20. D&D Beyond is technically one, but that's going to be going away in favor of Project Sigil.
Alchemy.
Fablecraft is one that I know exists.
Yeah. I honestly forgot that you could use Tabletop Sim as a...
You can use Tabletop Sim. I know people who do play it in there.
It's not terrible.
It's honestly, it's a very...
it gives you the more in-person feel.
It does. Yeah, that's it gives you that kind of tactile feel. I actually do want to do that at some point. It is limited in very obvious ways, mainly in it's only as good as the stuff you download from the marketplace. which is also very limiting, especially recently. I would actually love for the people who made Tabletop Sim to make one dedicated to TTRPGs. I think they could make it very interesting.
Yeah.
Like imagine like it'd probably go the way of Fantasy Grounds where you have to buy extra stuff, but
again,
would want to do official licensing. But
these are just some of them. There are some smaller ones out there, and like you have to kind of also see what you need out of a VTT. Like, are you looking for all those like fancy things? Like, I want to be able to have like fancy maps, fancy special effects. I want to have like music. What kind of presentation are you putting on and combined with it? Like, if you're just doing a simple map and character sheets, plenty of them that can do that, you know? The black and white map is something I've definitely thrown together in Roll20 plenty of times, where I'm just like, well, I got my character sheets. They work. Here's our black and white map. My words are meant to tell the story more than the actual VTT.
Yeah.
And there are others. I mean, we talked about. I just found out that apparently D&D's one is going to be called Beyond Tabletop. Makes sense. But there's a few more. I just looked up sources, and there's apparently a few others. I'm not sure. I haven't heard of them before. Like the RPG Engine. There's something called Tableplop.
It's a thing. It's got a name.
Tallspire I have heard of.
Yeah, that's one I've heard of as well.
Yeah. In fact, I actually have that one on Steam. I haven't actually looked at it at all. I thought I did, actually. Tailspire. Sorry, that's why. It's not Tallspire, it's Tailspire. Oh, yeah, this one. We talked about it a while ago. It was very... I mean, it's still being updated, but I remember when we first looked at it, like, a few months ago, it was, like, very bare bones, in my opinion. Like, it didn't have sheets.
So, again, there's always new ones coming out, being developed, and, you know, certainly, like, I guess if you're looking for one now, look for one of these basic ones, you know, look for, you know...
I'd say the big three right now.
Foundry Roll20, you said it, and my brain had already forgotten the name.
Fantasy Grounds?
Fantasy Grounds. Those are kind of your big three. I'd say look at those first. Right now, it's like, I'm getting into VTTs, I want to use one. That's where we start. That's after that, then you can start looking at the, like, other more obscure ones or something like that. Maybe, you know, like, if you're doing, like, the Aliens are RPG. It's got, like, some stuff on some of them. Or, like, this RPG that I want to do, it's got stuff on this one, you know, or it is better systems in place because they're, you know, a lot of times, you know, a VTT will advertise what it's good at if they're not just a VTT like the big ones that we know about, which don't have to do that. You know, they're like, oh, hey, do this game on us.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think we talked about this actually in the past. Alchemy VTT.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about Alchemy too.
Yeah, I think that one's still in development, though.
Yeah. It might be usable. I can't say for sure. Information I don't have. Anyway,
Astral Tabletop. I want to bring that one up. That one doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, that one was very ambitious. I would have loved to see that. We actually interviewed the guy who made Astral Tabletop. I think at the time he called it something else. Yeah, this was back in like 2018, I think 2017, somewhere around there.
I remember who we're talking about. I do not remember what it was called though.
Yeah, its name got changed to Astral Tabletop. I'm trying to remember what it was originally called, but yeah.
Oh boy, it's long ago enough that it would be hard for me to like reference with how much long we've been doing this, and which one it would be. Like, I don't know what it was.
Yeah. Again, it's not. It doesn't matter because it doesn't exist anymore. It got shut down. Like basically ran out of money.
That sucks.
Yeah. Also, I actually talked to the guy. I want to say like 3 years ago, and apparently he was having like super major stress issues.
Ooh.
Yeah, like this was before it was shut down, or no, I think it was even longer. It might have been like 5 years ago. But yeah, no, I just remember like I think it was like shut down like a year and a half later. I'm like, okay, because I actually reached out to him like to potentially be on one of my RPGs or something when I eventually did it. Because I'm like, hey, I remember that guy. I wonder what he's up to. He was not interested.
I guess it was just too much to work on to do at that point in time. Yeah.
I could honestly, yeah. Anyway, there was a lot. I found like a really interesting just list. But yeah, I don't know much about these. Most of these.
Yeah.
Quest Portal, Owlbear Rodeo, Let's Roll. You know, there's lots.
So it's like you can find these things online.
I think we're just reaching a point where these are going to start propping up, and hopefully it becomes a very competitive thing, so that way, no matter what you're looking for, someone will have it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for.
That's a good thing. You know, that you can find it. You get a little bit more of variety. Like, certainly speaking, is the D&D what's the code name for it? You said earlier.
It was Beyond.
Momo said that.
The project like code name was Project Sigil or whatever.
Yeah, the new the replacement D&D Beyond VTT.
Because I got my code for that today.
Oh, sorry, Beyond Tabletop isn't for D&D.
No,
Beyond Tabletop isn't what D&D Beyond is making. That's actually just called D&D Beyond.
Yeah.
VTT.
Yeah, I got my playtest for it, so I will probably mess around with it a little bit at some point to see if it's any good.
But like, that might be the like standard for, D&D in the future.
Yeah,
I can't say for sure, but regardless if it is or not, that means we just like you defining that as that. Whether you want to play D&D, I'd use that. I want to do this. I want to do that. You know, again, we're getting to that point in time where we're figuring this out. You know, Roll20, not like super great, but workable. Foundry and
honestly, Roll20 is really trying to. Roll20 is really trying to improve themselves. They're actually starting to work hard. They were stagnant for about 12 years. And now they're actually trying to play catch up now that everything else is coming out. Hopefully, honestly, and I'm happy about that.
Yep. So, even Roll20, keep your eye on. They're trying to improve some stuff. This might be a point in time where we're getting to more stuff with them too, and they are still, the free option.
They are in a lot of ways they're the best free option.
Yeah. They're kind of like that. Like they've got themselves in an interesting position there. So we've now kind of explored this strange, crazy world of VTTs just a little bit more, and hopefully enough to help you out navigate it yourself. So
yeah. There's definitely some. Honestly, I'm actually surprised that Fantasy Grounds really did take the big leap I feel like they needed to continue being the top. So like they're the top but most expensive. Foundry, you have to pay for it, but honestly, it's got probably the best community content. Roll20's a solid choice for free. It's a little bit less valuable for if you want to pay for it.
Look, the one thing I'm going to say is for Foundry, I'm glad it works. It was annoying as hell to spend like 2 hours figuring out how to connect myself to everybody else.
I was about to say, yeah, that is the one downside to Foundry you do have to, the local aspect of it is problematic. I'd love if they had a server of some kind to, at the very least, connect things, because, I mean, it can still be locally hosted, but connected via server. That's what, a lot of games do that.
It's like, I know there's a bunch of games that if you're playing with friends, that you're hosting it on your system, but you're using, like, basically very simple servers that someone has. somewhere else to connect with them, So it's like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, no, I'm not eating up your like server space somewhere. I'm running eat up on my computer. You're just helping me connect with people.
The problem is that they still need some amount of server power to do that, meaning it still is an extra incurred cost, and they're focusing more on not having to. They're reducing reoccurring costs so that way they can focus on advancement. Because they don't want to do because honestly, if you have a reoccurring cost, you need a reoccurring income, which makes it you require some kind of subscription service or some other way to pay, which is, so there's that's why they do it that way, and I know that, but
well, we got it working on my end. It took a while, but yes, it was an adventure trying to figure out the issue that I had.
Yep.
Did it come down to naming something like actually like Foundry VTT also, I think, in the end?
I don't think that's what it was. I think it was more just restricting it to just TCP and other stuff. And like one or two other things. The name probably didn't, because the name I was looking at, someone mentioned the name. When they didn't like say it like it has to be this name. They said name it this and then do these settings.
All right. Shall we talk about our week in gaming? Did anybody do anything last Saturday night? We'll start with that.
No.
I don't think I did a lot of actual tabletop this week on Tabletop Sim. I think when I'm trying to think about what I did there. So yeah. I didn't do anything on last Sunday.
Yeah, we did Joe's game.
We did Joe's game. We did the aftermath of defeating a dragon in the Astral Sea.
Oh, yeah.
And then we found which might be the Modron we're looking for, who's going with us to go see a dead god.
Congratulations.
Well, okay, yeah. So he may have, like, the thing we're looking for apparently is like something that was inside a Modron from the Astral Sea, and that's where the person who we confronted was kidnapping Modrons and torturing them to try and not torturing, but vivisecting them to try and find out.
Well, we found out one of the Modrons we had like rescued from this dragon, apparently like for reasons. Went near the dead god, which is linked to the overall story, I guess, and so that might be where it's
No, he actually didn't. It was a different one. It wasn't Eoscar. I asked.
Wait, I thought it was. So Eoscar is the one that Lady Pain replaced, right? Oh
yes.
My god.
But it was a different deity.
We played every other week. There's a lot of like the plot of this, and it's the sigil plot, which I'm like, sigil lore isn't bad, but I'm just not getting enough of it in a good way for me to like actually remember all this crap.
This is why I take very, very scrupulous notes.
I take okay notes, but I still forget half of things sometimes. Like, I have notes. It's just like, I guess you didn't agree with me.
I mean, to be fair, I also just have an excellent memory to the point where I can just... Yeah. Mm-hmm. My recall sucks, though, which is why I take notes.
Did you do anything last Sunday, Momo?
Sunday? No, I played Elden Ring.
Okay.
Well, I was going to say, and then we got attacked by pirates and fought off the pirates.
Oh, that's right, we fought pirates. How about Monday? Did anybody do anything Monday?
Monday we had River's game.
How's that been going?
It's been pretty good. We're 3 sessions in. There has already been mass death at the academy.
So it's another attack.
Well, it's this time it's wild magic surges causing spells to explode and killing people. We stopped a terrorist attack at a big crafts festival. Because apparently that's just a thing that keeps happening at this goddamn school is terrorism. But we found out some kind of like dragony person is basically like trying to cause a huge faith crisis in whatever the nation's called to get potentially dragon gods some more worshippers or something. But they're going around and causing mischief and killing a lot of people.
Interesting.
It's a very kind of a more slow and chill game in terms of like plot. So we haven't had any political assassinations yet.
That's
I'll keep
good.
you
There was a
updated
lot
on
of
that one.
those. There was a bunch of those last time. Just political assassinations. You need a political assassination. You need a political assassination.
mhm.
Anybody do anything on a Tuesday?
Tuesday, I ran some Wrath and Glory. We are on session 2 of 3.
Ooh.
The players are in desperate need of Blackstone, which is a material that can like fend off warp energy and basically just cancel the warp out entirely.
Ooh.
So to achieve this, they were told to go into a Necron tomb world. So they spent the session fighting Necrons.
Wow.
Specific Necrons that they thought were the flayed ones, which are the ones that like to wear skin.
Oh, yay! Man, Warhammer.
Basically, the plot of this game is they need to find a way to cross the big rift in the galaxy to like basically let some Imperium forces in. So they are dealing with a rogue trader who has stolen stuff from the Dark Eldar. So far they fought Dark Eldar and Necrons, and then they're gonna go fight more Dark Eldar.
Jeez. I know on Wednesday it was my adventures of getting Foundry up and running. And then a bunch of people entering character sheets from Roll20 into Foundry.
Hell yeah.
Recopying that.
Yeah. And then I still need to help you basically actually learn how to get stuff set up more easily and install stuff.
Sounds like
Install modules.
I gotta get some more modules in. Well, at very least I got a few modules installed because of the ones that, like, if I search for Pathfinder 2 module, like, you can install that one. But I guess there's more individual based ones that do stuff that wouldn't be just named, this is the generic Pathfinder 2e module. Stuff like that. So, I see. I don't think I did anything else tabletop this week. Did anybody do anything on Thursday?
No, I didn't do any tabletop this week besides the 2 games I'm in.
I guess then...
I did stuff this morning.
You did stuff this morning. I guess we'll get that done. And how did your game go this morning?
Good. We so we left off like in this area where we found out people were disappearing, and so we started to like look into it, and then there was this weird ghostly person who tried to lead us into a hilly area, and we're like, nah. And then we investigated some more and found out some other stuff, and then our druid went to visit a local druid enclave, and he found out that apparently only the apprentices were there. All the other like head druids were like off doing something important.
Was he planning on challenging those head druids in order to gain their rank?
No.
Not
Yeah.
powerful enough.
So he went and found out, like, we found out the farms were near the hills were having issues, so he went and examined it, rolled super well, and was able to then track the taint from the farms to this cave system. And then we explored a cave system a whole bunch, and we ended right when we got when 4 out of like 6 of us got confused. No, sorry, 4 out of 8 of us got confused by a gibbering mouther.
Oh man, Gibbering Mouther. I remember I'm getting flashbacks to us playing Wrath of Charlatan and those showing up all the time.
Not Bastion Frontier? It
You
wasn't a
did fight
big. It
Gibbering
was. You fought a giant gibbering mouther that took up an entire like underground city.
I forgot about the big one, but didn't we like fight a smaller one and then like
You fought a number of smaller ones, and there were a few variants that did other weird things.
Because I had one that was a pet in a jar.
Oh gosh, I forgot that you kept one in a jar.
I befriended it, thank you very much.
I think the entire time it was still trying to eat your mind, but...
Probably. But Tool's mind was not one that you'd wish to eat. I remember having it. Lugrid, I think I called it. Lugrid.
I completely forgot about that.
Yep. That was good times. Good gibbering mouth. Alright, that sounds like a pretty good week in tabletop. Yeah. I mean, I almost finished up which I'm so, like, interested that I couldn't do it on stream ever. I'm almost finishing up a For the King run with Joe and Blaze. We're right before the final dungeon. But sort of like, this is the farthest I've gotten. I've played it a bunch of time on stream and a bunch of times before. I never got this far in For the King. We always die. I'm like, somehow, like, when I set up the game, and I didn't, like, do anything different than, like, the standard difficulty, which is what I've played before, and I'm like, well, I'm somehow lucky this time. But that's fun. Anyway, any shout-outs? No, we have anything to shout out here?
I do not have anything to shout out. However, I'll be unreachable for the foreseeable future as I must spend time with Mr. Majima as a pirate in Yakuza, the new Yakuza game, which it's a thing. I gotta play that.
It's a thing.
I love it.
I will probably watch through someone play through it, but I also have
doing his fucking Yakuza playthrough.
I've been watching his highlights of those ones so far. I went through those.
Played every one of these games that's released in the West. They are a delight.
I own a lot of them because they kept giving me the Humble. Let's see. I have 0, 3 Remastered, 4 Remastered, Kiwami 2, and Like a Dragon.
0, Kiwami 1 and 2, pretty good. 3, I like. 4 is bad.
Okay. So I know there's 5, 6, and I know then there's Infinite Wealth after Like a Dragon.
Infinite Wealth is good, but I didn't like Infinite Wealth's story.
And then there's some side ones too.
Yeah, a lot of the spin-offs are just a little bit a sillier time.
Yeah.
And then there's Gaiden, which made me cry because it's a sad game.
Yeah. So, Worm, I give you the shout out. Give your spiel.
Yeah. I'm DiamondWyrm. You can find me on twitch.tv/DiamondWyrm or at DiamondWyrm on Twitter and DiamondWyrm on Blue Sky. I'll be streaming tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. PDT, and Monday, Tuesday, Fridays at 7:30 p.m. PDT.
Cool. Myself, Dracovin. I'll be back on Tuesday for some gaming. Tuesdays and Fridays are my gaming days. So I do some variety gaming. Friday evening is I play with friends. Currently, our group has been me, Worm, and Blaze. If you want to see me do some tabletop stuff live, maybe some gaming afterwards, that's Wednesdays and Thursdays. I go through a variety of lore-based topics. All the stuff goes up on the YouTube side of things. Make sure to always check those out. Of course, do all the YouTube things if you're checking out this over on YouTube side, like subscribe, ring the bell. Thank you very much, and support the channel in the basic ways here. Yeah, I think that's all about shot. And I have social media down below, Discord, Blue Sky, Twitter, and all those. Check those out. All right, everybody. Hope you had enjoyed the show. Hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Go check out other people's places. For join us later on, and hopefully next week we'll be back with more discussing tabletop with some more interesting topics. Till then,
true.
Yep. Hey, you never know. Some weeks are pretty boring. It's kind of hard to find topics. Anyway, farewell, everybody. What?
I was about to say, if you're losing topic ideas, ask me. I might be able to think of something.
I probably do have to get like a consultation. I keep trying to put together the deeper discussion topics. I gotta really finish and put those out. I'll anyway, farewell, everybody. Bye for now. Goodbye.